Here.
Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube video. This is another video in the series of advanced tech. Today we'll be looking at inventory management. Now what do I mean by that? Obviously in Valorant there's no RPG element, so you won't be going picking up inventory as you walk around. However, your inventory is comprised of your abilities and your guns, and I find that there's a lot of confusion in ranked as to what you're supposed to buy when. So this video is an all-encompassing video that will tell you how you should itemize, what guns you should buy on specific rounds, and more effectively using your money to make sure you can have money for more rounds. So I'm sure we've all been in ranked. There's an enemy team. Somehow they keep losing rounds, they keep buying ARs, but they also have enough money every round to buy an AR, and eventually they'll win. And you will sometimes be winning round after round after round, but you won't have any money because you'll just you won't know why. And this is what this video is about. It's all about how can you manage your inventory to make sure you always can buy something that will help you win the round. Obviously, as you can see, I am playing Cypher today, so this is going to apply majorly to Sentinels. However, all of these rules can stretch out to pretty much every other character in the game, with minor variations. So like with characters that are a bit more aggressive, I'll explain how to play against those. With characters that play more passive, I'll explain how to play as those. So, as always, please do remember to like the content if you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends because I am trying to increase my reach to make sure more and more people learn how to play and enjoy this game, because I do care about it as much as I hate playing it sometimes. And yeah, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another upload. And if you think there's anything I've missed out, or if there's any other tips and tricks you have, please leave them in the comments down below. So, without further ado, I'm first going to check to see, yes, I'm recording, awesome, and my mic is on. Today is a good day. So, the first round in the game, probably the most important round in the entire game, is the pistol round. As a sentinel, specifically when you play Cypher, on attack I'd usually get two cages, on defense, trap and a cage. Now, what you can do is, to catch people off guard, you can get a sheriff as Cypher. Obviously they won't expect it, but because Cypher is an information gathering character, if you have smokes on your team, you're better off using your camera up there to try and get some information, or being the sheriff player on your team, because the enemy team will not expect a sentinel to have a sheriff. Obviously, in most cases, you'll probably want to get two cages because you want to smoke your team on a site, and then you can also buy a ghost. I don't recommend sticking with the classic on Cypher. However, in certain situations, if you think you can get on site without actually having to use your cages to smoke yourself on site for your team, you can play a classic and close to your cage purely by just hopping in and out of it and using your right click and left click spamming. So, the classic can work, but I mostly would recommend playing Cypher with the ghost. In most cases, I actually would recommend taking the ghost because this gun is just very effective at long range fights. It is mostly accurate, you wouldn't really be missing with it, and if you panic and start spraying, it's got a pretty tight spray you can use to try and get kills. One thing that I see a lot of people misunderstand on a pistol round is how they should play the game. You should use this time to learn what the enemy team is like, not to get kills. If you know the enemy team is playing slow, well, guess what? They're most likely gonna play slow for the rest of the game. So, after the pistol round, whether you win or lose, try and change your approach to the rounds based on how the enemy team is playing. Moving on, the only time, so this is going to be more to do with the following round, but let's say we take site, we kill 4 people out of 5, but we lose. What do you do then? Well, most people will just say, let's save. No armor, no classic, no abilities. And this can work because with the classic, you can sometimes get lucky. You just run site as a 5, which is what you should be doing if you're playing with a classic. You should be playing together. Either playing together very far back or playing together really aggressive. You should not be playing separately because you will just get gunned down by specters. However, if you know the enemy team is going to force, which they most likely will do if they want to win the round, the best thing you can do is counter force. Obviously, not everyone on your team will have the same amount of money, but you gotta keep in mind that if you got 4 kills in the pistol round, that means not everyone on the enemy team is gonna buy a Spectre, and they definitely will not be able to afford a Spectre heavy armor and abilities, so the enemy team will lose out on something. Whether that is an ability or a gun, they will not be as strong as they are, but you should only be counter-forcing if you killed more than 3/5 of the enemy team. If you killed any less, do not force. You're better off taking the loss, and you will win your third round, where you should start buying ARs. Now, itemization with abilities is a bit different because it's very character based. If you're someone who has information gathering, you don't really need to get your other abilities because you are just a very strong character at base. Someone like Sova, Fade, KO. I guess for Skye, it would be good to get your dog as well as your flashes and your heal, because you are playing more of a supportive role for your team, especially with the recent blind changes. Skye video coming out very soon, stay tuned for that. But as a whole, if you're a character for information, you're better off just buying an AR and sticking with your recon ability, because you have a lot of power. It's way better for you to have an AR and armor than it is to go light armor and buy, let's say, 2 shock darts and a drone for Sova. If it's so the first pistol round is pretty much a mess. Everyone knows that. No matter what elo you're in, you will either win amazingly or you will lose terribly. It's all depending on how the enemies play their defense roles. But on attack, if you kill 3/5 of the enemy or more, you can counter force if you lose the round. If you kill the entire enemy, I strongly suggest forcing up to a bulldog. This is where itemization comes into play. Obviously, not really. People don't really like the bulldog. It's not a very fan favorite gun, so to speak, but this gun is very powerful, especially seeing as it will win a long range battle against the Spectre, unless you're fighting against the Spectre demon, as well as if you can get the bulldog and full armor, you are now someone with technically an AR, because the bulldog will be one shot to the head from about this far away. So even in the close range bouts, if you hit your shot, your bulldog will win you so many rounds. As well as, you might be thinking, well yeah, but now I'm stuck with the bulldog. Well, although it has a bit of a weird spray, a lot of things that people don't take into consideration is that with enough training, you can actually get the bulldog spray to land you 3 perfect shots on someone's head. In fact, if they haven't patched it out, you can actually be moving, and as soon as you ADS, when you stop, you will instantly be accurate. You should be using this, especially on mid-buy rounds, because that is such a powerful tool. Not only are you hard to hit, but think of the bulldog as the 3-shot burst sniper from Advanced Warfare. If anyone's played that game, I know this is like a very random callback, but with that sniper, if you quickscope, you'd be quickscoping a burst. That's how you want to use the bulldog. Think of it as a long-range burst sniper. And this gun will often unexpectedly win you a lot of rounds against ARs, so make sure to make good use of the bulldog. It's in the game for a reason. A lot of people don't really use the guns. If you don't like the bulldog and you think it should go burn in hell, my advice is to just get a guardian and light armor. Why? The guardian can actually win a lot more long range fights because its first shot is always 100% accurate whether you are ADSing or not, as well as it has the caveat of if there's an enemy pushing and you tag them, 100% penetration, you will kill them in 2 to 3 shots. 4 shots to the body, 1 shot to the head. Like, 2 shot, 1... God, I'm forgetting my damage numbers. 4 shots to the body, a shot to the body and the head, or 2 shots to the head. Like, it is a very powerful gun. You should be making full use of this in bonus rounds. And once again, if you stick with it and you do win the round, well, now you have a very reliable AR. There have been times where playing with the Guardian, it's lasted me a whole extra 5 rounds after the pistol round because it's just so reliable. So, what are we at right now? So we'll go from scenarios. You've lost your pistol round, you've lost your bonus round, and you forced. What do you do then? That's the point where the game gets a little awkward because the next 2 rounds are going to be very difficult for you depending on how the enemy team plays. However, on attack, one thing you have to keep in mind is that everyone except 1 person on the enemy team, or 2 people depending on how many you killed, will still be using their force guns. That means that if you have enough money to buy next round, the best thing you can do is go for a sheriff and no utility. This is high risk, high reward. You're going to lose the round if you stick with the classic anyways, so why not take a gun that at most ranges will be a 1-shot kill? Now, if you can, buy a Spectre and light armor. Do not buy a sheriff, and the reason I'm saying that is because it's very easy to just catch someone out with a Spectre, much more than it is to catch someone out with a sheriff, because as we all know, running and gunning with a sheriff isn't exactly something you want to be caught doing because you will just get 1 tap. So, if you can, Spectre and light armor, just make sure you always have enough to eventually get an AR. You want to control your money and your spending. For abilities, if you've lost the first 2 rounds as a sentinel, in my opinion, unless you're playing someone like Sage who needs the wall, because the wall is an amazing tool to have, I don't suggest buying anything else. Even the wall is only like if you have that extra bit of money to buy it. I don't think you should buy it if you've lost the first 2 rounds. Stick with it, get as much money as you can, bring your team together, and go from there, because inventory management is how you win games. If you have an AR and the enemy team has Spectres, you're arguably 30% more likely to win. You can still lose, but any form of advantage you can give yourself over the enemy team is very important. On defense, if you've lost the first 3 rounds and you forced the 3rd round, you sort of have a bit of a different caveat, because you've got to understand the enemy team has to push into you to take the site. So starting from the beginning, I'm kind of pushing ahead and not talking much about defense. If you're an aggressive character like a Jett or a Reyna, sometimes you kind of get away with using... Oh, sorry, it must be mobility. If you're a Jett or a Raze, let's say, you kind of get away with using a shorty and buying light armor, because your dash allows you to play like that. And there have been Jetts that have been very successful doing this, especially in my games. However, in most cases, you're probably going to want to take a Sheriff. It's just a very good gun. If the enemy team has on board classics and armor, it's 2 shots to the body, which is very, very lenient, considering that they need to hit about 4 shots to the body, especially when you can pretty much spam the first 2 shots of the Sheriff when you shoot them. Especially up close, you can spam about 4 or 5 before the Sheriff actually, well, first of all, runs out of armor. But yeah, this gun is very spammable up close. So as an entry fragger or an aggressive character, you probably want to be using the Sheriff. However, the Ghost is equally as reliable, for the only reason that you can get another ability. I really don't think Jett needs her updraft. If you're playing on attack, then you need your smoke, because you dash smoke onto site to get the most value out of your character. But on defense, you're better off just getting a Sheriff, playing this angle, taking a shot and dashing away, just like I talked about, in my movement and positioning video. So you now have ARs. What do you do? Well, this is where the game gets a bit more liquid, shall we say. If both teams have full abilities and full AR, then it's completely a skill-based system, and that's more about tactics. And I'm not going to be covering tactics in this video, because that is a very, very long topic to cover. This is completely about what should you buy and when should you buy it. When both teams are matching in equipment, it's a lot of factors that will decide whether you win the round. So like I said, the most important round in the game is the pistol round. So you can imagine at round 12, when you're back to the pistol round, well, it's another really, really key round, because if you've lost 12 rounds, well, if you lose the pistol round, it's game over. However, one difference between the first pistol round and the second pistol round is you've been playing against this team. You know what players are really good at aiming. You know what players play like rats. You know what players hold the side effectively. And you know what abilities they use to do what. Let's say you play on a defense first round and there's an enemy Sage. You know the Sage is very quick to use her wall. Well, most likely, as soon as she gets on site, she's just going to wall across here and they're going to walk the steps. So what do you know? Well, if she does that, let me not play lane. Instead, I'll play backside or I'll play onside. So this is where the, learning as you play the game becomes important. In the second pistol round, because you know if the team is aggressive or defensive, you can change your playstyle around that. Like I said, on Cypher, I recommend getting a cage and a trap, because you can always put the cage there, put your camera somewhere up there, and then you'll trap around here. And then from that, you play here. That's just key things. I do the same things on Sentinels. On Sage, I usually get a wall, because you can no longer buy a wall, a slow up, and armor. But you usually want to get your wall, because defense is all about keeping the enemy off sight, like I keep saying. So, as a Sentinel, you want to give up these guns in order for you to have a better ability at keeping people off sight. In fact, if I can see here, I do have unlimited money, which is why I let me buy another cage trap. But you should be able to buy armor, a classic, a trap, and a cyber cage. If you're feeling really dangerous, you can in fact get 2 cyber cages and 2 trap wires and a classic. That is possible. And that's probably ideal, because you have so much stopping power, especially now that ally utility can't take out your tripwires. Obviously, everyone knows how to play against Cypher tripwires, but in lower elos, people still get tripped by them quite a bit. So, what do you do once you play the 12th round and you're back on pistol round? Well, this is sort of a rinse and repeat moment because, like I said before, this is going to be a very short video. I tried to lengthen it, but there's not really much to talk about, to be honest with you guys. This is where I mean, like, this is like advanced tech. This is the nitty-gritty of how this game works. If you play the second pistol round and you win and it's a repeat of last time, you either take out the entire enemy team or you take 4 but lose. Counter force, because you know they're going to force. If you can't afford the counter force, just take the L, lose the round, get ARs, get back in the game. Whatever you do, you always want to put yourself at an advantage against the enemy team. Here's the reason why counter forcing works, because there's obviously going to be people saying, but I'm scared to counter force because what if we lose again? Well, you got to understand, there's things that are high risk, high reward. Counter force isn't something that's expected. In fact, I played at least 100 games in the previous 2 seasons where the enemy team didn't force, and then the second they counter-forced, our team started losing. The games I've lost the second round most on is when I don't actually buy a Spectre or a Bulldog and light armor or heavy armor. It's the games where I stick with my Ghost, buy light armor, and play for my utility. You will lose, because if the enemy counter-forces and you have a Ghost, unless they are terrible, they will kill you. And as I said, you want to give yourself any advantage you can. So, always buy towards an AR. I know there's going to be people saying that there's other guns in the game, and this is very true. But I highly advise against buying the Ares or the Odin if you're any rank above plat, because you will get one-tapped. Especially if the team is very calm and they're not tilted. The Operator is a gun where this is a very, once again, interesting gun. If you win the first 3 rounds, you can buy it on round 3. I only advise doing this if your team doesn't have any smokes. Why? Because the Operator is really strong at holding angles. And if you have an Operator here, the enemy is going to think twice before pushing. Especially because the Operator can hold this very effectively. About as effective as a smoke would be at scaring people off of sight. Obviously, if the enemy team smokes you off, then you're shit out of luck. But in most cases, Operator on round 3 is an unexpected and reliable buy when the enemy team doesn't have smokes. Because a competent team will just smoke you off and then push on the side. So, you buy the Operator on round 3 if the enemy team has doesn't have smokes, and you can just hold the angle for free and not get traded or smoked off. Other times where you should buy the Operator is 100%. If you're playing Jet and Chamber and you don't know how to use the Operator and you don't play with the Operator or the Marshal at least once per game, you are trolling. Why? Because you are so strong with these weapons, and these weapons are so strong in your hands, they were practically made for you by the gods at Riot Games, and you are choosing to ignore that gift. So, make sure you are using the Operator and the Marshal on Jet and Chamber. The Marshal is a bit of an interesting gun. It's a very good gun for forcing on defense, but it has the problem of if the enemy team counter forces Spectres and Stingers, you will lose unless you're very lucky. Or if you play the long angle, but even then a Spectre will kill you if you miss your first shot. So, I'd say if you're very good with the Marshal, then you can consider buying it. If you're a bit uncomfortable playing snipers, stay away from it. You're better off getting a Spectre or a Bulldog. I need this. Now, the shotguns. The shotguns are much like the Operator Marshal, created for specific characters. Cypher can play with the shotgun very well because he can weave in and out of his traps, which allows him to get close to the enemy, take a shot, and walk away. Someone like Sage can play with the shotgun because, as Quarky has shown, shout out to Quarky, amazing player, people should stop hating him for using shotguns during the game, so he's going to use them. The reason the shotgun is so strong is because you can hold, the Judge is so strong, especially on Sage. It's because the wall allows you to have so much versatility over what angles you hold and what height you play at. As well as this gun having ludicrous damage. I still think it deals too much damage. Like, come on dude, you can wallbang kill someone with a Judge. That's just not okay. Like, honestly, it's just not okay. Yeah, you can even do it from here. It's insane. Oh wait, that doesn't go. Why does it look like it goes through? Does that go through? No, that's so odd. It makes a gun hole, but it doesn't go through. Well, we learned something new today. But yeah, shotguns are very good on characters that can weave in and out of close angles. They're not very good on characters that want to play the distance. I don't think you'd want to buy them on someone without mobility either. So, Reyna can make decent use of the shotguns because she has to dismiss, but if you miss that one shotgun shot, you're fucked. Jet can use it, Raze can use it, Sage can use it because of her verticality and her ability to confuse the enemy players through her wall movements and stuff. Cypher can use it because, once again, he's got smokes. Brimstone and smokers in general are pretty effective at using the shotguns, but only on defense. Using a shotgun on attack is very niche. You sort of need to play very smart and slow and get behind the enemy and close enough for the shotgun to make do. Now, the Ares and the Odin. These are quite easily the least liked guns in the game. Nobody uses them. Back when the Odin could just be ADS, crouch and spray, this gun was very strong. But nowadays, if you're a massive fan of the Odin, go ahead. I'm not gonna tell you how to play the game. If you love this gun with all your heart, by all means use it. Just know that nowadays, it's way more effective to just start spraying and pull down than it is the ADS and spray, because of the changes they've made where the ADS spray now shoots up instantly. The Ares is a really weird one. It had its time in the spotlight where it was a very good gun, and it still can get you kills, but they nerfed the long range spray so hard. Like, look at that. That shot up far away so quick. It's borderline impossible to use. You sort of have to play Apex Legends, and look at the spray. The spray is terrible. Like, from this range, you ain't getting a kill. I'm sorry. Even if you tap it, the accuracy is so vile. Like, look at that. You're not getting a kill using this gun, unless you aim at the ground and you wait for it to rise to a headshots, and by that time you would have been killed like 15 times over. Do not use the Ares, it's terrible. Please, I'm begging. But I think that covers everything. Yeah. If you're a sentinel, prioritize using abilities and maybe give up the guns. If you're an attacker, prioritize getting the AR, because you're pretty much the only form of aggressive plays that your team can do, especially when your sentinels are sacrificing the ability to aim in order to help defend the site for you. I think that covers everything. All of these rules apply to all the maps, not just Ascent. Ascent just happens to be the first map that you pick when you go into a custom game. I have been Venter Black 3, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next one.